Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my recap of Sunday's game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, without a further ado, let's get started. Now, kicking it off with the injury report, we've got offensive guard Matthew Bergeron, I think that's how you say it. He was ruled out in the third quarter after suffering a neck injury and did not return for the game. Then we move on to center Ryan Newsill, who hobbled midway through the second quarter and did return before halftime, but it is still undisclosed what type of injury he suffered. If I'm not mistaken, it's some sort of leg injury. And then when we move on to tight end Charlie Warner, who suffered a concussion second quarter, but did in fact pass the protocol and did get to return to the game. Now, when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons injuries, it's really bad the fact that you've had a potential concussion to one of your tight ends. Obviously, not your top tight end, and that will be Kyle Pitts. But then you get your starting center and one of your guards going down with injuries. The offensive line rumbles like that. And yes, one of them did in fact return to the game, but still, that doesn't really matter to the fact that when you get injured, I mean, you can go back, but that doesn't mean you're going to play the exact same way. So the Falcons really, really, really suffered on that one after both their center and their guard went down with injury. And the Seattle Seahawks, they did very well in this game. Now on to the offense. We got the Atlanta Falcons offensive passing stats, starting with Kirk Cousins, 35 attempts for 24 completions, 232 yards, 1 touchdown to 2 picks, 3 sacks for a loss of 16 yards, and a passer rating of 72.6. Now, when it comes to Michael Penix, who did in fact throw 1 pass, and it was completed in this game for a 14-yard gain and no touchdowns, no picks, and had a passer rating of 118.8. Now, this offense of the Atlanta Falcons led by Kirk Cousins, obviously Kirk Cousins is not the future. That was made honestly very, very, very clear in this year's draft after they picked up Michael Penix Jr., who obviously, like I said, threw a 14-yard pass in this game. But I'm still thinking that he's still a little bit raw. So I'm just sticking to it right now. I think that you shouldn't start him yet, obviously. Kirk Cousins is your guy for now. And yeah, that was a very tough game for the Falcons. But, and oh my God, the 2 picks, that was crucial for the Seattle Seahawks. But to be honest, the Seahawks have just been rolling and rolling and rolling since the start of the game. But that doesn't change the fact that the Atlanta Falcons still should have done a lot better. And in the run game, we got Bijan Robinson going for 21 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Algier going for 5 carries, 36 yards, no touchdowns. Then we get Jace McClellan with 5 carries for 17 yards, no touchdowns. And Kirk Cousins did lose 1 yard in a carry he had in this game. Obviously, a 1-yard loss. So, it was a very good game for Bijan, honestly. But he did get a lot of carries to get 103 yards. So, that is troublesome because he only got 4.9 yards per attempt. But that's pretty good because if you average that amount, you'd get a first down every 3 downs. Every 3 downs, first down, first down, first down. So, that's pretty good. But the fact that he needed 21 carries to do that, that is the troublesome part. And even though they had a very good run game, they still didn't do enough. Honestly, they did better in the run game than in the pass game, but still, they should have done way better. Now, in the receiving game, we had Kyle Pitts, 9 targets for 7 receptions, 65 yards, no touchdowns. Then we get Drake London with 8 targets, 6 receptions for 63 yards, and a touchdown. Then we get Darnell Mooney with 8 targets, 5 receptions, 46 yards, and no touchdowns. Bijan Robinson, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 40 yards, no touchdowns. Then moving on to KC Washington with 1 reception, 1 target, 14 yards, no touchdowns. And the same goes for the amount of targets and receptions for Tyler Algier, but only 9 yards. Ray McLeod getting 4 targets for 2 receptions and 9 yards, no touchdowns. Now, when it comes to the receiving game, like they did good. They did pretty good. I'm going to say this straight up. They did the best job in the receiving game, not passing game, and there is a difference in my opinion. My opinion is that the passing game has to do with the quarterback, how far he can throw, and all that kind of mumbo jumbo. But the fact that out of, for example, 65 yards, 7 receptions, that's pretty good. Same goes for 6 receptions, 63 yards, that's pretty good as well. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney are the 3 top players in this game and overall in the receiving game for the Atlanta Falcons. And honestly, Bijan was not that far off either. Like, he was only 6 yards off of Darnell Mooney, and he only had 3 receptions compared to Darnell's 5. In the end, I think that they did a very good job in the receiving game, but it was just not enough. Now on to the defense. We got Hayden Ellis with 9 tackles, 3 solo tackles on the day. Justin Simmons, 5 tackles, 5 solo tackles. Same goes for D. Alford. Then we move on to Grady Jarrett, who got 5 tackles, 4 solo tackles, and 1 tackle for loss. Then Nate Landman with 5 tackles, 1 solo tackle. Then 4 tackles and 4 solo tackles for Mike Hughes and AJ Terrell. Then we get 4 tackles and 3 solo tackles for Arnold and Bikitike. I don't know if that's how you say it. Then David Onyemata with 4 tackles and 2 solo tackles. Then 2 tackles and 2 solo tackles for Jesse Bates and Bijan Robinson. Matthew Judon getting 2 tackles and 1 solo tackle. Then we move on to James Smith Williams with 1 tackle, 1 solo tackle, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Then we get Kevin King, Charlie Warner, Avery Williams, Clark Phillips, all with 1 tackle and 1 tackle solo as well. And then we move on to Taquan Graham and Rook Owororo. I don't know if that's how you say it, but they both got only 1 tackle, no solo tackles. In the end, I think that defensively, obviously, they did a horrific job. They did a horrible job on defense, allowing 34 points by the Seattle Seahawks and not picking off Geno Smith once. That is a huge mistake, and the Falcons clearly paid for it. Now, on to the Seahawks injury report, which only consists of 1 player that I remember, and that is DK Metcalf, who had a knee injury after a late hit from, I believe it was probably AJ Terrell or one of the corners. And due to that, the veteran receiver was carted off and into the locker room, and despite his questionable status, he was in fact not allowed to return to the game. A knee injury, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be a horrific time for DK Metcalf, especially due to his size as well. Like, he is like 6'3", 6'4", something like that, and 200 and some pounds. Like, this beast is going to have some issues because of his size, and that's going to be a very, very tough thing for the Seattle Seahawks as well. But they do got Jake Bobo. They got other receivers that can take over. And yeah, realistically, I have no issues on that part. But on DK itself, yeah, I got a lot of issues with that because DK, usually big players do not recover from injury as easily as smaller players. Now on to the Seattle Seahawks passing game, and we got Geno Smith, 28 passes, 18 completions, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and only 1 sack for 6-yard loss and a 110.3 passer rating. Now, when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks, they also had Jackson Smith and Jigba throw for 1 pass, 1 completion, and a 35-yard gain. So, I'm thinking they did a very good job. On offense, on defense, on everything. And honestly, 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith, I did not expect much from the Seattle Seahawks, but I did say I wanted them to prove me wrong, and they so did. And realistically, the running game is no different. Now, on to the run game, where Kenneth Walker ran for 14 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Zach Charbonnet getting 8 carries for 19 yards and no touchdowns, and Geno Smith running for 4 carries and 15 yards, no touchdowns. Obviously, Bijan Robinson and Kenneth Walker are kind of in the same boot, but it's still a win, and it's actually less carries to get 69 yards, so I'm going to put it less on Bijan Robinson, on Kenneth Walker and more on Bijan because honestly, Bijan had more carries, a lot more, but like half the yardage that he should have had. While here, you mostly got like probably 60%. Like realistically, we're seeing a very evenly run game for both teams. But realistically, with the touchdown from Kenneth Walker, that is a very good time for the Seattle Seahawks on the run and in the pass game. Now, in the receiving game, we got 4 receptions, 7 targets, 99 yards, and a touchdown for DK Metcalf before he left with injury. Then 4 receptions, 4 targets, 65 yards, no touchdowns for Noah Fant. Tyler Lockett, 4 receptions, 6 targets, 45 yards, no touchdowns. Then we get Kenneth Walker with 2 receptions, 2 targets, 24 yards, a touchdown. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 3 receptions, 9 yards, 6 targets, no touchdowns. AJ Barner, 1 reception, 1 target, 5 yards, no touchdowns. And then we get Charbonnet with 1 reception for 1 target and -5 yards, no touchdowns. Receiving game, incredible. Noah Fant and DK Metcalf did an amazing game for the Seattle Seahawks. And to be honest, did not expect it. I did not expect much from the Seattle Seahawks, like I said before. In the end, they proved me wrong. And I love that they did, because now the Seattle Seahawks are back in the lead in the division. And realistically, that might actually change next week, but you never know. In the end, receiving-wise, they did amazingly. Now on defense, we got Kobe Bryant with 11 tackles, 7 solo tackles, 9 tackles, 4 solo tackles for Julian Love, 7 tackles, 4 solo tackles for Jerome Baker, 6 tackles, 4 solo tackles for Devin Witherspoon, 6 tackles, 3 solo tackles for Josh Jobe, 6 tackles, 2 solo tackles for Terrell Dotson, Nemahaya, I don't know if that's how you say it, Pritchett, with 5 tackles and 4 solo tackles. Roy Robertson Harris, who Seattle traded for this week, 5 tackles, 2 solo tackles. Jerron Reed, 4 tackles, 3 solo tackles, and a tackle for loss. Byron Murphy II, 4 tackles, 2 solo tackles, and a tackle for loss. Then 4 tackles and 1 solo tackle for Jonathan Hankins. Then we get Leonard Williams with 3 tackles, 2 solo tackles, and 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss. Same goes for Boye Mafe, but without the tackle for loss. Raymond Jones, 2 tackles, 2 solo tackles, 1 sack, and 2 tackles for loss. Then we get Kavon Wallace with 2 tackles and 1 solo tackle, with then getting Laviska Shenault, Brady Russell, and Derek Hall, all 1 tackle and 1 solo tackle. And then we get Faion Hicks and Trice Knight with 1 tackle, and that's it. In the end, the defense did their job. 14 points allowed. That's what I like to see. Seattle's doing great. 2 picks on Kirk Cousins as well. Those 2 picks also, by the way, coming from Julian Love and Kobe Bryant each. Julian got a 26-yard return while Kobe only got a 9-yard return. That is impressive. That is an impressive game for the Seattle defense, and I expect more in the future. Now, the obvious conclusion of this game is that the Seattle Seahawks did their job. They got back into the winning column, 4-3 record. And due to the San Francisco 49ers losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, like I predicted, we ended up not only winning that the division, but now we're a game ahead of San Francisco. Well, although we still got the tiebreaker, they do, in the division, as long as we're tied. But as long as we're not tied and we're a game ahead, that is all we need, and we're doing well. And hopefully we get to see the Seattle Seahawks back into the playoffs. But if we don't, well, it's not that big a whoop. We're not going to be going to the Super Bowl anytime soon. You never know what could happen. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Tweet me any video ideas. Also, tell me down in the comments below, is Seattle going to beat Buffalo next week? Or is Seattle going back to their losing ways against the Buffalo Bills? Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.